to fuel our health and performance. So, there we go. We'll find that happy medium somewhere. Well, I'll go ahead and introduce myself really quick. So, I'm Becca. I am a registered dietitian. Has anyone ever worked with a dietitian before? Well, we're super fun. We're not the food police, so this will be a good time. We'll have a good discussion today. Who's from Iowa? Anybody familiar with Assumption High School, Davenport? Yeah? Where are you from?
Oh, me?
Yeah.
I went to Western, but they were always good at soccer, weren't they?
Oh my gosh, they were very good at soccer. I was not on the soccer team, but I always witnessed their greatness. So yep, I am from Iowa, went to Assumption High School. I went to the University of Northern Iowa, where I was a track and cross-country athlete. While I was there, I studied exercise science for my undergraduate degree, and then I went to grad school for nutrition to become a dietitian. So right now, I work in the University of Iowa Sports Medicine Clinic. So I work with our student athletes as well as people from the community who want to use their nutrition to fuel their athletic performance. So what I do is talk to athletes about food all day long. It's really, really fun, I have to say. So I'm going to kick it off with a little bit of an icebreaker here. I want everybody to think about the last thing that you ate. And I'm going to take 3 volunteers to raise their hand and tell me. We've got a smaller pool to pick from, so we're going to need people to be brave and share. Who wants to share what they had? Who had breakfast? Okay, that's good. I love that. So who wants to tell me the last thing that they ate?
Cereal.
Cereal, awesome. Why did we choose cereal?
Why?
Yeah. Yeah, so it's super easy, it's super convenient, right? Let's get one more. Yeah.
Egg, sausage, and the other things.
Awesome. And why did we choose that breakfast?
It just sounded good to me.
Yeah, so it tastes good, right? It's something that we like. Can we get one more? Yeah.
I had Mexican last time.
Ooh, very nice. I heard that there's some really good Mexican restaurants in town.
Yeah.
So why did we have that?
We were celebrating our win.
Yeah. So kind of a social thing, right, with our team. So there are a lot of reasons that we choose the things we eat. Sometimes it's just the outside factors that draw us in. How the food tastes, how the food smells. I bet when you were at the Mexican restaurant and you could smell the food cooking, it was really appetizing, right? If you live in an apartment and you are in your room studying and you hear cookies coming from the kitchen, or you hear them, you smell them, you're probably going to leave your room, go to the kitchen and get one, right? So there's things on the outside that draw us in. Then we've got some external factors. So our culture can affect what we eat. Maybe it's the people that we're surrounded by at home. Maybe it's our team culture. We're likely to eat similar foods as people around us. We can also have traditions about food. So let's say our tradition is every time we win a game, we get Mexican food. That would impact us. And I know we've all been sitting there watching TV or YouTube and an ad for like Waffle House comes up and all of a sudden we're really hungry for breakfast. So outside things can kind of influence what we eat. And then, of course, as college students, convenience and habits. Those are like the 2 most important things. Who has the same thing for breakfast most days? Right? Because it's easy, it's convenient, and it's a habit. So all this in mind, how does nutrition fit in? Who thinks nutrition is kind of complicated? Who feels like there's a lot of different sources out there that give conflicting information on nutrition? Yeah. So what I'm here to do today is give you guys the basic tools you need to understand how nutrition affects you, your health, and your performance as a female athlete. So I'm going to give you what you need to know so we can block out the rest and focus on the things that are going to make you guys healthy, happy, and strong. So, where are some places we get nutrition information? Who wants to be brave? Where are some places that might tell you what to eat, what not to eat, when to eat? Where do we find this info?
The internet.
The internet! Everything is available on the internet, right? Do we think that all the information on the internet is tailored to you guys specifically as female athletes? Probably not, right? So that's what today's goal is. What is relevant to you? So most nutrition challenges that athletes face really fall into three main categories, and we'll go through each one of them and give you guys the tools that you need. So energy balance, food choices, and nutrient timing. We're going to start with energy balance. What does that mean? What do we think? When we hear energy balance, what comes to mind? Any guesses?
Portions of food that help you gain more energy.
Okay, that's a good way to think about it, yeah. So we're going to look at energy balance, and another word for it is metabolism. I am just kidding, we're not doing that at 8 o'clock in the morning. Metabolism is something that we can boil down to a really simple equation. So the word metabolism has kind of lost its meaning. I've had athletes tell me they have a fast metabolism, that they have a slow metabolism. I've had athletes tell me their metabolism is broken. That's not a thing. If you're worried about breaking your metabolism, you can rest easy. That cannot happen. All it really means is that our energy in comes from foods and drinks in our diet, and our energy out comes from a couple different places. So resting, metabolic rate, is the energy we burn at rest. So even if you guys just laid in bed all day long, didn't move a single muscle, you would still be burning calories. Your body would still need fuel. Athletes actually have a higher energy burn at rest because muscle burns more calories than fat does. And athletes tend to have more muscle mass. So even just laying in bed, not moving a muscle, you still need more fuel than a non-athlete. Now then you have our energy burn through daily activities. So that's going to be when you're walking around campus, when you're folding laundry, doing the dishes, cleaning the kitchen because you're a great roommate. All of those things burn a little energy too. And then as athletes, the one that we tend to think of the most is our physical activity, right? Do you guys practice most days? How long do you practice for?
Hour and a half.
Hour and a half? How often are you having games right now?
Twice a month.
Okay. And are we doing any strength training, any lifting, anything like that? So it sounds like you guys are a lot more active than the average college student. Do you think that's true? Probably, right? So because of that, our energy out is a lot higher, and we need a lot of fuel. So this just kind of boils it down. When we take in more energy than the energy we put out, we're in a surplus. This is what we need if we want to build muscle and get stronger, right? Because we need to have a little bit extra. We can't build something from nothing. Energy in equaling our energy out, that is when we're in maintenance mode. That's when our body is humming along, we're clicking, we feel good, we perform well. Now, being in a deficit, having less energy in than our energy out, is not recommended for athletes, especially in season. And I'll show you why in a second. So of course, there's a lot of factors that make this more complicated. Our appetite, stress, hormones, things like that, they can all make this a little bit more complicated than it looks here. But in general, energy in, energy out makes sense. So I'm going to illustrate this with a little example. You don't have to raise your hand. How many of you guys have ever compared yourself with someone else? Probably most of us. How many have ever compared our bodies or our food or what's on our plate? Probably something that we all do. Who lives with a non-athlete? A couple of us do. So let's do a little example, and let's say you and your non-athlete roommate did an experiment. And for one day, you ate the exact same foods at the exact same time in the same portions. Now, your regular college student, they still burn energy at rest, probably not as much as you. They might walk around campus, get some steps in for the day for their Apple Watch. Maybe they do like a intramural sport, or they go to the campus gym. You, on the other hand, you're burning more energy at rest. You still walk around just like they do, but then you've got practice, right, that you need to be fueled for. And then you've got strength training that you need to get through. And then you want to have a little extra to grow and repair those muscles. So if you guys both ate 2,000 calories and your roommate was in energy balance, do you think you would be? No, you'd probably be in a deficit, right? Just makes sense, just math. I always like to put that example up here because sometimes we compare ourselves with people who are not in the same position as we are as female athletes. You guys have different needs, and you really need to think about that when you're building your nutrition strategy. So when we are in a calorie deficit as an athlete, these are some of the signs, the red flags that our body waves to tell us, hey, I am not getting enough fuel. A lot of people think that being in a calorie deficit is just weight loss. You're going to lose weight. And that's not always the case. Sometimes our body will hold on to our stores and conserve energy while all of these things are going on. And these things are really normalized among athletes. A lot of athletes feel like, oh, I'm just tired all the time. That's just how it has to be. I'm just really sluggish at practice. It takes me 3, 4, 5 days to recover from a hard workout, but that's just how it is. A lot of athletes get caught in a cycle of injuries year after year after year because they don't give their body enough fuel to heal and recover and build back stronger. A lot of athletes get sick all the time. They're always getting an infection because they don't have enough calories to keep their immune system healthy and strong. A lot of us are just hangry. Have we ever been hangry? Do we know what hangry means? We all know what that means because it happens to all of us, right? That's a sign that our body is giving us that we're not getting enough fuel in through the day and that it is impacting our health and performance. Now, who's heard that it's normal for athletes to lose their period, to lose their menstrual cycle? So I want to point out that while that is common, it is not normal. And it's something that athletes do need to be concerned about. When the body shuts down the menstrual cycle, what it's saying is, I am not getting enough fuel to get me through the day. So I've got to conserve energy. And if I can't even fuel myself, there's no way I'm going to have a baby. And obviously most of us are not like ready to have a child at this point in our life, but our menstrual cycle actually serves important functions for a female athlete. The biggest important function that I tend to think of with athletes is that every time we get our period, we release estrogen. Estrogen is a bone-building hormone. So that monthly release of estrogen actually helps us build and maintain strong bones to keep us from getting injured. Athletes who miss their menstrual cycle miss out on that estrogen and they don't build those strong bones, and that's what can get us into that cycle of repetitive injuries. So while it is common, it isn't normal, and it's something that we can improve through improving our nutrition. So as we continue our conversation today, I want you guys to keep these things in mind. And if any of these things are happening to you, we'll talk about how we can improve our nutrition to kind of take care of that. Who's heard of RED-S before? Relative energy deficiency in sport. Have we ever heard that? Have we ever heard female athlete triad? So a couple more nods there. So basically what this means is that we're in a calorie deficit, we're taking in less energy than we're putting out. Female athlete triad was the old term for it. It would mean that someone had an eating disorder, someone had osteoporosis, and that they had no menstrual cycle, that they lost their period. Then we kind of learned that this actually occurs on a continuum. Some people experience only one of these things, but not the other two. Guys can get this, so we really shouldn't call it female athlete triad because it makes sense that guys can take in less energy than they put out. So RED-S is something that can happen to someone of any gender, age, sport, any body size. We often kind of picture like a stereotype of someone who's very, very thin and frail, but we can be in an energy deficit at any body size, especially as athletes when our energy needs are so high. So, another thing I want to point out is that red S is not an eating disorder. It certainly can include disordered eating. Sometimes we do limit our portions or skip meals or cut out certain foods or food groups with the goal of changing our body size or our body composition because we want to look a certain way. Other times, it's unintentional. Red S can kind of sneak up on us. If we have those signs of underfueling, even if we're not doing it on purpose, we still need to address them. So one thing that happens a lot with athletes is that we increase our training volume. We go from maybe the off season into that first couple weeks of season where it's really, really hard, everything's